Exploring Life, Chapter 3, Chemical Bonds Part 1. This chapter explores how atoms interact, covering the different types of chemical bonds and the reactions they drive. Some elements, called inert elements, have full outer electron shells, making them stable and unreactive. These are found in the far right column of the periodic table. In contrast, reactive elements have incomplete outer shells and tend to form chemical bonds to achieve stability. This difference in electron configuration drives how elements interact with one another. This is a carbon atom. It has 2 electron shells and a total of 6 electrons, 2 in the inner shell and 4 in the outer shell. The outermost shell is called the valence shell, and the 4 valence electrons in it are shown here. Because this shell isn't full, carbon is a reactive element. It readily forms bonds with other atoms to complete its outer shell and reach a more stable state. You can think of atoms like perfectionists. They're always trying to look perfect on the outside by filling up their valence shells. Chemical bonds are the interactions that hold atoms together within molecules or connect different molecules to each other. These bonds are essential for forming and stabilizing matter. Intermolecular bonds occur within a molecule, linking atoms together to form a single structure. In contrast, intermolecular bonds occur between separate molecules, influencing how they interact. Both types play key roles in the chemistry of life. Let's talk about intermolecular bonds. These are the bonds that form within molecules. Atoms form these bonds to achieve stability by completing their outer electron shells. They do this by gaining, losing, or sharing valence electrons. Typically, gaining or losing electrons results in ionic bonds, while sharing leads to covalent bonds. These interactions result in the formation of molecules or compounds. The main types of intermolecular bonds are ionic, metallic, and covalent, though we won't focus much on metallic bonds, since they don't occur in living organisms. There are also intermolecular bonds, attractions between charged regions of different molecules. While not as strong as intermolecular bonds, they have a major influence on a substance's chemical behavior. One of the most important types is the hydrogen bond, which gives water its unique properties. Hydrogen bonds also play a key role in maintaining the stability of biological molecules like proteins and DNA. When it comes to living organisms, both intramolecular and intermolecular bonds play important roles. In the next slides, we'll take a closer look at 3 key types: ionic bonds, covalent bonds, and hydrogen bonds. Let's start with ionic bonds. These are chemical bonds formed between ions, atoms that have gained or lost electrons to complete their outer shells. This transfer creates oppositely charged atoms, which are then strongly attracted to each other, forming crystalline ionic compounds like table salt. You can think of it like borrowing money. One atom donates an electron, and the other accepts it. And just like in real life, the lender keeps an eye on the borrower. That lasting attraction is what forms the ionic bond. While ionic bonds are generally weaker than covalent bonds, they play a unique and essential role in many chemical interactions within the body. This image shows the formation of an ionic compound you probably see every day: table salt. Sodium loses 1 electron, emptying its outer shell and gaining a positive charge. Chlorine gains that electron, filling its valence shell and becoming negatively charged. This transfer of electrons creates oppositely charged ions that are strongly attracted to each other, forming a crystalline structure, a repeating pattern of positively and negatively charged ions. Now let's look at covalent bonds. These form when two atoms share electrons to complete their outer shells. Think of it as a true relationship. Both atoms are committed and invested in making it work. Instead of giving electrons away, they share them, forming a strong and stable bond. The pull each atom has on the shared electrons is called electronegativity. Covalent bonds are the most common type found in chemicals and are essential in biology. They hold together the complex structures that make life possible. This is the same image of carbon you saw a few slides ago. Its outermost shell had 4 valence electrons, but to be stable, it needed 4 more. Those extra electrons came from 4 hydrogen atoms, each contributing 1. This is how a methane molecule is formed. Carbon shares electrons with hydrogen to complete its shell. And just like that, a stable molecule is born, formed. Now we will talk about variations in covalent bonds. Depending on how many pairs of electrons are shared, covalent bonds can be single, double, or triple. A single bond shares 1 pair of electrons, a double bond shares 2 pairs, and a triple bond shares 3. The more electron pairs that are shared, the stronger and more stable the bond becomes. For example, the triple bond in nitrogen gas, written as N2, makes the molecule very stable, but also harder for living organisms to break apart and use. That's why nitrogen fixation is such a big deal in biology. Let's take a closer look at electronegativity and how it affects electron sharing in covalent bonds. When atoms have similar electronegativities, they share electrons equally, forming nonpolar molecules, like methane. But when their electronegativities differ, electrons are shared unequally, resulting in polar molecules. One side becomes slightly negative, the other slightly positive. This is called molecular polarization, and dipole molecules of water is a classic example. Now, to make this more relatable, we've already compared covalent bonds to relationships, so here's a fun twist. A nonpolar bond is like a marriage, both partners share equally. A polar bond, though, is more like a relationship between a parent and a small child. The parent, the more electronegative atom, does most of the pulling. Sharing still happens, but the expectations from a child are very different. This image shows water, methane, and carbon dioxide molecules using a modified ball and stick model. In these models, the balls represent atoms and the sticks represent chemical bonds, helping to visualize molecular structure. You can see single bonds in both water and methane, while carbon dioxide has double bonds between carbon and oxygen. In methane, the electrons are shared equally, making it a nonpolar molecule. In contrast, water has unequal electron sharing, leading to partial charges, shown here with delta plus and delta minus symbols. These differences in bonding result in very different behaviors when these molecules interact with other substances. Now let's talk about hydrogen bonds. These form between a partially positively charged hydrogen atom in one molecule and a partially negatively charged atom in another, usually oxygen or nitrogen. They're especially common in dipole molecules, like water, where this bonding gives water many of its unique properties. Hydrogen bonds also play a critical role in biology, helping maintain the three-dimensional structure of large molecules like proteins and DNA. We'll explore hydrogen bonds in more detail in future modules. In this figure, you see water molecules interacting with one another. The oxygen atoms are shown in red, and the smaller white spheres represent hydrogen atoms. Notice the delta charges, delta on oxygen and delta on hydrogen, indicating the unequal sharing of electrons. The dashed lines between the molecules represent hydrogen bonds, which form between the partially positive hydrogen of one molecule and the partially negative oxygen of another. While weaker than covalent bonds, hydrogen bonds are essential to water's unique properties and to life itself. Let's clarify the difference between compounds and molecules. A compound forms when atoms of different elements combine in a specific ratio, through either covalent or ionic bonds. For example, sodium chloride forms through ionic bonds, and carbon dioxide through covalent bonds. A molecule, on the other hand, is a group of atoms held together by covalent bonds, and it can include atoms of the same element. Examples include oxygen, nitrogen, carbon dioxide, and methane. So, while all compounds are molecules, not all molecules are compounds. In the second part of this lecture, we'll explore solutions, how substances mix and interact, and then dive into the chemical reactions that transform them.